so f***ed up.
Welcome. I am Joe the Psychologist, and these are the movies that f***ed me up. In this episode, I am going to be discussing the 1988 movie, The Lair of the White Worm. It is written and directed by Ken Russell. It's sometimes the movies that you least expect, especially when you're young, impressionable, and still going to church, that can fuck you up. Before I tell you what the movie is about, I do want to let you guys know that this movie has a very young Peter Capaldi, Doctor Who for some of you guys, Hugh Grant, which you've seen in a lot of movies, and the beautiful Amanda Donahue. Fun fact, for all you readers out there, this movie is based on the Bram Stoker's book, The Lair of the White Worm. Now, I do want to add, if you decide you're going to read it, it is loosely based on it, but still, this is from Bram Stoker. Well, first we meet Angus Flint. Angus. Such a funny name to say, and it's kind of a little too close to another word. Just saying. Angus, he is an archaeologist student who is excavating at a B&B. The B&B is run by Mary and Eve Trent, both sisters who lost their parents mysteriously a year ago and are now running the B&B. Angus tells them that the B&B was actually the site of a former chapel, and Angus discovers a mosaic with a white worm on it, but most of all, a large head of what appears to be a snake. You see, the Mercy Farm may actually be the site where the D'Ampton worm was decapitated. And then we meet John D'Ampton, whose last name, D'Ampton Worm. Well, one of his ancestors had actually slain the worm, supposedly. Well, he is dating Eve, and he shows up at the farm to meet Angus and meet up with Mary. And then we meet the beautiful, seductive, and evil Lady Sylvia Marsh. And she is the one who ties our story together. You see, she comes back in the spring and makes a little comment about going away during the winter to hibernate. Well, Lady Marsh gets wind of this skull, and she decides to head to Mercy Farm. She steals the skull, and on her way out, shows her fangs and decides to spit on a crucifix on the wall. If this is your first time joining and watching this show, I don't go into a lot of details in the episodes. I don't want to spoil the movie for you because I want you to check this movie out. I mean, it's a horror comedy. It is a pretty funny at times, but still for 1988, it's a pretty cool movie. So I'm just gonna merely tell you what it was that fucked me up. Anyways, our heroes then face off with Lady Marsh, who turns out she is a snake. And I don't mean in the liar, untrustworthy person. No. She is actually a snake with these big old fangs. And listen, if those fangs, if I ever saw them popped up, I would probably go ahead and punch. However, you might be fucked with this because see, she has a venom. So your best chance is to run, but might be too late anyway. Fun fact, the role of Lady Sylvia Marsh was originally offered to Tilda Swinton. And listen, I love me some Tilda Swinton. However, Amanda Donahue was definitely the person for this role. Well, let's get to why you are here. For the movies that f***ed me up. I'm going to need a shot for this. I should have had some wine. As I said, Lady Marsh is immortal and a snake. And when she had spat on that crucifix, Eve had touched the venom. When she did, shit got all kinds of bonkers. Because Lady Marsh, who has lived many lifetimes, said she met Eve before. And we see Eve, at least one of her ancestors, is kneeling down in front of Jesus on the crucifix. As he is there, a large white worm is enveloping him and basically taking bites into him. And then this is when the Roman guards show up and a very frenetic and just twisted orgy, rape, mass murder scene starts happening. And again, at that time, I was young, I was still going to church, doing Sunday school and everything. So seeing a bunch of nuns getting raped, mutilated, and then later on impaled was pretty fucked up, considering I was not expecting to see that in this movie. But then again, when I first saw this movie, I didn't know anything about it. It looked like it was gonna be funny when you first started watching it, and then you get to the scene and it's pretty much fucked up.
Well, I finished doing the dishes, regrouting the bathtub, and cleaning out the stables of the 12 incontinent bulls. Tell me, O wise sword of righteousness, were these menial tasks meant to teach me humility?
No, they just needed to be done. I wasn't going to do it. Anyway.
And just when you thought it could not get any weirder, Mary finds her mother. Spoiler alert, I said I don't give it out a lot, but I gotta say it for this one. Anyways, her missing mother is in the mansion and ends up biting Mary. And when she starts seeing her visions, it is like these guys, like this weird dancing, and they have something strapped to them. Again, when I was young, I didn't know the strap thing part. But anyways, so they start poking into her and stabbing, and you're seeing like these spikes going through her body. It was later on, as I got older and started to learning a couple things. Well, as it turns out, they're actually carved dildos. I mean, I didn't know that back then. And as I got older, I found that out, which makes it kind of funny, but at the same time, a little twisted, because these things are long and sharp in the front. So I don't know who would want to fuck with that shit. So yeah, it was the imagery that Eve and Mary saw after they touched their venom that pretty much gives this movie like a little crazy fucking twisting thing about it, because you see the snake is the snake from Eden, and he's going after Eve and Mary, you know, the first lady, the mother of Jesus. And as I said, when I first saw this, I was still going to church, so seeing a bunch of nuns getting raped and mutilated was pretty horrific at a young age. I recommend you check out this movie if you have not seen it yet. Yes, it's a horror comedy. It is British comedy, so if you're not into that, you might not like it. However, it does have some good special effects just for the imagery of the bonkers nightmares, or whatever you want to call them. It's definitely worth it. So until next time, ta-ta for now.
Here's to the first swallow.
By Christ, have I a tale to tell you. I can hardly wait.
Legend has it that Stonebridge Cavern was the lair of the Dampton Worm.